Hi, this is Joe from Espresso Outlet, and today I'm going to be making a video on troubleshooting stalling issues with the DF64V. The control board on the DF64V is programmed to stall if it's sensing too much resistance. So if it's sensing a certain level of resistance of the coffee between the burrs, it will shut off the motor to protect the motor. So it's programmed to do that. So it's not a defect in, it's not breaking or something like that. So it's programmed to do that. Some of the early versions of this grinder, the control board was programmed to be too sensitive. So since then, the control board has been reprogrammed, and it actually increases RPM a little bit to try and force its way through the stall. But if it can't do that, it will shut the motor off. When this happens, the way you reset it is by unplugging it and plugging it back in. But that's not enough to reset it because there's still coffee stuck between the burrs. So it will turn back on, but when you try and run the motor, it won't do anything because there's still coffee between the burrs. So the correct way of dealing with the stall is unplugging it. Once it's unplugged, you can adjust the grind size to a larger setting. So adjust it pretty large, like go all the way up to 90 or something like that. And then turn it back on. And raise the RPM as high as it goes. And see if that's enough to clear the stall. It's actually best to raise the RPM first. I did that in incorrect order. And then turn it on. See if that is enough to clear the stall. It might create enough gap between the burrs where it increases the gap and it allows the coffee to flow through. So that is the quickest way of doing it. And if that works for that given coffee, use a higher RPM. That RPM for that coffee and that grind size may be too fine for this grinder. So if you're making espresso, you can be all the way up at 1800, 1600, 1400 RPM. It's not really going to have an effect on espresso. The main reason that people like lower RPM is for pour over. So if you're using a very fine setting, just run it up, run it at a pretty high RPM. It's going to do fine with that, and you're not going to have the stalling issues. If you are running it at a lower RPM, say you run it at 600 for a given coffee and it stalls, you can try it at 800. See if that works better. If it's having a stalling issue, the RPM for that particular coffee at that particular grind size is too low. So you need to raise the grinds or the RPM for that particular coffee and that particular brew method. If you are not having luck with resetting it by plugging it in and adjusting this to a higher setting, the next thing you can do is remove. It's a little hard to do with one hand, but got to make sure it's unplugged. And then you remove this and take this off, and then you this one takes a little bit to pull out, but you pull that out, vacuum out the chamber, and try and put this back on in the same way you took it off because it is marked. So pay attention to where the mark is because that's your aligned spot. But vacuum out the chamber, pay a special attention to the exit chute down in there, and just kind of gently take a flathead screwdriver or something and gently tap at it. We want to be careful because there is a declumper in there and you don't want to damage it, but you want to break up any jam particles in there. Then you can put this back on after it's all vacuumed out and all clean, and put the upper burr carrier and the collar back on. And you adjust this all the way back to the 0 point, like that. Then you move this grind size to your desired setting and plug it back in. Now it's on. We're going to raise the grind size a little bit for that given coffee. So if you were grinding at 800 when it stalled, try it at 1000 and then turn it on, put your coffee in, try again. And that's really all there is to it. We've had a few people that insist that the grinder is broken, and when we get it and return it, we take it apart and there's usually coffee between the burrs, which would continue to cause stalling. So I'm making this video so it's a little clearer about how to clear the jam, clear the stalling issue, and avoid the stalling issue in the future. The new DF83V has a different body style, which allows the coffee to use gravity to flow out a little easier, so it doesn't have the stalling issues because of that. But with a very dense coffee and fine grind size, it creates a lot of resistance on the motor. And if it didn't have that control board in there, the motor would burn up. So that's why it has it in there. It is for a reason. It does work well to protect the motor. So far, like I said, every one we've gotten back, the motor has been protected. The motor has worked. Some of the original ones that were programmed too sensitive. So we do have boards for some of the original ones that have, it was like the first 50, I think, had, maybe it was first 100, had a board that was too sensitive. We have boards available for people that had one of the first 100, and most of them we've sent boards to that are less sensitive. But the new ones, the boards I think are programmed at a pretty good level where it protects the motor. I don't want it to be too unsensitive because then the motor can start having issues. So I feel like it's at a pretty good level. I feel like if you adjust the RPM for the given bean and the given grind size, 100 or 200 more, maybe more, but you can find the right balance for that bean, it will produce good results and the grinder will work as it should.